delayed that 1 week or pushed it up 1 week too, so. But I'd have to look at my
I
calendar.
mean, we could see if we could have a proposal done by then.
We could see.
March 25th it would be, I believe.
Okay.
We could see if we could do that.
Of course, we'll know in April if our sales taxes pass.
So once you take it to the board, how long would it take after that?
My thoughts, and the others can give you theirs, and you can bring us what you think the proposal should be from that.
I think that'd be great. That's all.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you,
Randall.
Randy. Okay, our next agenda item, County Treasurer Lisa Schlegel. Hi.
I'll have to lower that.
Hi there.
Good evening, Lisa Schlegel, Ellis County Treasurer. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk with you all about the communications I've had with you about some raises for 2 of my staff members. I came ready to kind of summarize the communications we've had, so I'll just run through it for a couple minutes and then allow you to ask me any questions if you'd like, and then you can decide today or in the future what you think you want to do. So a couple years ago, I did a job restructure, some of our office staff positions in the Treasury, and it's been about a year that all of the new positions have kind of solidified and taken on standard duties that they do. And there are a couple of adaptations that I think need to occur, just having looked at how things have settled into motion. And the first position that I think we need to look at, just as a county, is the deputy treasurer. That used to be a full-time position before I came in. And just looking at what that position did, I thought it would be a more intelligent move to make that a stipend position like another county treasurer in Kansas did. And just based on the job duties, I moved that stipend to $2,000 a year for the duties that I would have that position do. It was kind of a trial stage thing, and it's developed, like I said, over the last couple of years, what Susanna Augustine does as the deputy. She currently is paid full-time out of the motor vehicle department, and then there's that $2,000 stipend for being deputy treasurer. So just doing the math on the work that she spends the time that she spends of her workday doing treasury type duties, it seems like she spends about 10% of her day doing treasury duties instead of just 5%. And so I'd like to increase that stipend to $4,500 a year, just to make sure that whoever is deputy ever in the future always has a fair wage for the work that they're doing for the county, since it's currently fully paid out of motor vehicle and that's her full-time job. I'll move on to the next position that I want to discuss, which is Casey Hammond. She's the Treasury Operations Manager, and that's a position that I invented when I came to the county. Does a lot of cross-training and make sure that the different positions have support and have things like a job manual, so that she can basically make sure everyone is not just doing only one thing, and that if that person were to leave, we would be left in a lurch and not know how to do something, since we do quite a bit of different things in the Treasury. So Casey's responsibilities have kind of taken on a supervisory role. She helps me do job interviews. She supervises the front line a little bit, and as you guys know, as managers of the county, and some of you have had supervisory duties as well in your jobs, that's not an easy thing to do, and it just requires little extra money if you're going to hire someone to do some supervisory things. And she's really taken that on thus far without having any extra money, and I think it would be fair, just based on what she provides to the county supervisory wise, for a little bump in her wage. The other thing that stands out about Casey's position, and Dean, you could probably relate to this because you know Casey and you've worked with her on your commercial transactions. She is a real go-getter in my office, and she's helped me do a lot of the things that have been very beneficial for the Treasury. As I talked with you guys about before, this last year we made over $600,000 in interest income. And that comes with investing money, it comes with working with the banks, just keeping really on top of things. And Casey has been my partner in that. It's quite a big responsibility just to take it on myself. And so Casey backs me up a lot in that way and takes that pressure off me in a way that helps me really stay on top of the latest things that I need to be aware of. So she provides a lot of help supervisory-wise and has really made a difference in Treasury management of investments and finances. So the changes will amount to about $5,000 extra. It won't be extra on top of the budget I currently have. It is currently within my budget. But of course, I like to run those changes by you and make sure that you support them before I say that's what I want to do. So that's what I'd like to do today, see what you think about it, and invite you to ask me questions and make comments, whatever you'd like at this time.
I have some questions, Lisa. First of all, when you talked about Susanna, you said you wanted to increase that from $2,000 to another $2,500 to $4,500 because she does 10% of her work now for Ellis County. And I think you had that looking at it 5%. And you said the other part of her work was done from the state. If she's doing 10% of her work for Ellis County, would the wages you pay her from the state go down?
I wouldn't say that that's a correct logical conclusion. Just based on some of the things that she does now, she's always done for motor vehicle, but she does more things now than she's done before, now that she works for me.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And also then, looking at the other one, Casey, her wages would increase about $1.60 an hour, $3,307 a year. Together, both of these salaries are $5,800 per year. For the sake of discussion, I'm just going to round that off to $6,000. And you say that's already in your budget. My first reaction when I read your correspondence is, why in the hell is it in your budget? You're supposed to give us some accurate, honest figures. And I'm going to tell my fellow commissioners right now, if that money is in your budget, the first thing I'm going to do when we look at 2021 budgets is take it back out. It shouldn't be there. You shouldn't be able to pad personnel services. I don't like it. And that kind of money just shouldn't be in there. I'm sure Mr. Ring wouldn't say there's $6,000 in his budget just to give raises. And I could go down the line with all of the employees. I didn't like in your correspondence the way you tried to separate state work from Ellis County work. The way I view everything, people who go into your office and get services are all Ellis County people. They're not state people, they're Ellis County people. And if some of your services are directed by the state more or less than others, that's because we're mandated to do it. And if we're mandated to do it, it's still an Ellis County service to Ellis County people. So I really don't like looking at that division that way. Again, in your correspondence, you make reference to that the Treasury makes more money than it spends. Well, that's just not accurate. The Treasury is an expense. Your job as the treasurer and the Treasury is to invest that money wisely and to make money on it. That's what you are supposed to do to the best of your ability. And all of our department heads should be working to the best of their ability, given what those capabilities are. I would expect nothing less, and either should the citizens of Ellis County. I can't look at, well, we're making more in investments, therefore we just have more money to spend on the Treasury. That's just not accurate. I just can't buy into that at all. Another issue I have with this is we negotiate with the Wage and Benefit Committee for salary increases. I'm sure these two employees would be considered for salary increases in July when the Wage and Benefit Committee would get their increases. I don't think this commission should do anything more than that. We negotiate with the Wage and Benefit Committee. So as I'm talking to you right now, I would not approve these. In fact, I think it's, your timing is atrocious. If there's $6,000 in your budget, it shouldn't be there. We have to go ask people to support a sales tax. How can I do that when I say, the treasurer got extra money in her budget to give salary increases whenever she wants to? I just can't rationalize that. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a big no from me. Gentlemen.
I do have just a couple questions that, as far as wages go, and maybe Darren could do a better job of this, but in asking for a wage increase that doesn't correspond with the county's STEP program, what's the protocol for that?
I apologize for having to leave earlier. I got a cold.
No problem.
So the normal policy, as when we left the union or let the unions go here a couple years ago, is that the Wage and Benefits Committee was created to, in their elected positions through the employees, to provide voice for the staff on when and how much to give raises, recommendations to the commission on when and how much to give raises, whether it be COLA or steps on the pay scale. By county policy, if there's any variance to that, for instance, like Lisa or Bill, myself, Jason, if they had any individual, and I'll quote exactly the county policy, if they've displayed extraordinary and exceptional performance so that they deserve an advancement outside one pay step, both the department head and myself would have to concur. But even if we did or didn't, the commission would still have to approve it. So that would be the process in these cases. And to keep those individuals on the pay step, which Lisa did, she would coordinate with the HR generalist that we have to ensure that the raises she's wanting to give would keep those individuals on a certain step within the pay plan.
So Lisa, essentially this is a merit decision on your part. You'd like to get them more money because you, for one, like to keep them on staff, and because of the issues of their pay now, you feel like it's a possibility you could lose them, and you want to get them paid properly for the work that they're doing, which is more than you expected initially.
I think that's a good summarization of it. I'll clarify that I don't hold money back. That was never done intentionally. So, I'm sorry that you feel that way, Butch. They are merit raises, and I do understand that the timing is atrocious, as you said. But, I've been doing a process of restructuring, and sometimes timing doesn't line up, and I understand that. If your decision is based on that, I understand that. These ladies didn't ask me for a raise. I just think based on a business decision of running the Treasury like a business, what's the smartest thing to do? And I'm just moving things around and restructuring. If you disagree, you're the manager of this county, not me. So that is your decision, and I'll respect that. I just think that it's the smartest thing for me to bring forward what I think the best thing is, having spent 2.5 years working there, what I think would be a good move. So I'm bringing it to you on those regards, and yeah, it's up to you, and I'll respect the decision you made. I did want to address something that you said, Butch. I think it was your third point. The second point was padding, the padding comment, which there was no padding of a budget, and $6,000 just being there. There's lots of places where $6,000 can come from when you've got $500,000 budget. And so some things may have been saved, and I have that in there. I didn't calculate or try to ascertain $6,000 specifically for this purpose, because this is a decision that I've just come upon looking at the end of the year and the new year. What are some moves I can make to just kind of stabilize and get a good structure in place? And that's part of the evolution of managing an office. It's relatively young under my management, 2.5 years. I'm just learning how things are most well-functioning and what's most efficient. So that's where I'm coming to you on. Did you want me to address any of your concerns, or did you just want to state them?
Oh, I stated them. The last time I made,
remember the
the
third
last
one.
time I made a budget out in the health department, it was for approximately $550,000. I can guarantee you there wasn't $6,000 left in that budget at the end of the year. There just wasn't. And personnel was budgeted tighter than that. So,
I also lost an employee in September. So I haven't rehired for that person. So there is a significant amount that would normally be paid that hasn't, since I'm not going to hire a new employee during tax season and try to train somebody while we're doing that work. So there is extra just because of that.
right, but whatever you would pay this year has to be budgeted for next year.
That's
And-
correct.
And from my standpoint right now, next year's budget can already be reduced by $6,000. Because,
That'd be the simple way of looking at
Sure,
it. I
and
won't
it is.
argue with that logic.
because I'm just a simple guy looking at simple numbers.
I will say that I think it tends to be in government that we look at longevity much more than we look at merit, and I don't believe that that's the way we should look at things. Outside of government, merit is about the number one reason why people get pay raises. The idea that you just happen to be around for 20 years, you could have been doing a bad job for 20 years. If you're doing an excellent job in the first year on the job, I think that's initially when we should start talking about trying to keep you around as an employee and talking about merit pay. So I appreciate that. As far as the timing goes, yeah, that's the hard thing for me
I
right
can
now.
tell just from the,
Yep, the timing is not good to have these done. I think that in the budget process for 21, I'd be happy to hear you out on this. But for now, it's a no from me just based on that timing issue. And then maybe we look at it a lot closer in the budget cycle, a little closer into depth of what they're doing in the department and why we think that more pay would help. So,
Dean?
Okay, Lisa, I guess it's my turn. Just a couple things, I guess. I mean, I know, like you said, I know Casey very well, worked with her a lot. I think she's a great employee too. Susanna, I've had, interaction with her too, and I think she's a very good employee also. And, I kind of echo my fellow commissioners' comments. We got a budget process that we're starting in March, I believe. And I think that's when we need to add this and look at that then at that point and review that with her. Help me on the motor vehicle tax fund. How many of your employees get paid out of there?
Susanna gets paid full-time out of that fund.
And then you have another one that gets paid out of there also, part of it?
We've switched it around since I started, just because it's been, like I said, transitioning people to different responsibilities and using that fund, especially if the person spends the bulk of their day doing motor vehicle type responsibilities. And I did a talk with Darren Myers about his suggestion to use the motor vehicle fund for these raises. And that just wouldn't be advisable based on what treasurers do. You can't use the motor vehicle fund, even though that all becomes one pool at the end of the year when we turn that over, to pay a treasury staff member. So a deputy treasurer is a county staff member, and I have to separate the way my staff are lined up between motor vehicle and treasury staff, because that's just how it is. A lot of them do because I enjoy having the ability to have my employees do both treasury and motor vehicle, a lot of them do everything. But that's not usually the case. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you'll go to a county and you've got people in the front that only know how to do motor vehicle work and that are paid solely by the state, and where there's just people that do tax work. So we've got a hybrid office where everyone does a little bit of everything, except like Susanna, who does 90% of her day as an estimate of just motor vehicle everything. She's a motor vehicle expert. But since she's working as a deputy, and that involves some supervisory duty over all of the staff, including people that do treasury things, that's why I separated into that dichotomy, if that makes sense to you. Does that
Okay.
answer your question, Dean, or did I go off
Kind
a
of,
different
well,
track?
yeah, and I guess it's something I probably need to, I'd have to sit down with you sometime and maybe get it explained even further. I know there was just a recent lawsuit in the state of Kansas, I don't know if you gentlemen are aware of that, about that motor vehicle tax fund, how the treasurers spend it, et cetera. Maybe you're aware
We
of
have
that
to
too.
be careful with how we spend our
Correct.
motor vehicle fund.
And
And
I
that's why I can't say, in no treasurer that I know would advise me to take money from that fund, because it's there to pay Casey, who's a treasury operations manager, who also happens to back up Susanna in her motor vehicle duties, but she is a treasury employee, and we would never want to, let's say, something really crazy happens and the motor vehicle department isn't housed in the treasury, because that is a possibility. I don't see that happening, but if that were to happen, somebody like Casey you wouldn't want her to leave Ellis County. You know, she's definitely a county employee, and so I can't justify using the motor vehicle fund to pay a county employee.
So like all the money
makes
that
sense.
ends up in the motor vehicle tax fund, that's strictly all taxes generated off motor vehicles?
Say that again, or ask that
Like
again?
all the money that's in the motor vehicle tax fund,
Mm-hmm.
where does that exactly all come from?
Well, it comes from the transactions that people do here in the treasury
So do we
for
get
their
the
motor
100% of that, or not in Ellis County? Do we get?
Well, we don't get 100% of that,
Okay.
no. No, we get a percentage of each of those transactions, and that's what we use to fund our staff doing that job for the state.
Because I know, like all the treasurers across the state, it seems like it's about December 20th to 23rd. You know, I'll get this stipend they write themselves a check on. I know the first year you were here, I know you had to split it with Josh and I think maybe Ann, possibly. But that first year, in 17, you got like $2,400. I'm just using round numbers. Last year, you got $10,600. This year, you got $10,600 again. So help me understand that. Is that like a bonus in December that all the treasurers basically, they all get to write themselves a check every December?
Well,
Or
I
how-
mean, you could call it a bonus, you could call
Okay.
it a wage.
Okay.
It's like when someone comes and does a transaction, a percentage of each of those transactions pay me to manage the staff for the state to collect those funds. So that's like what I get paid by the state to run
So that's over
and
and
manage the motor
above
vehicle
your
branch.
wage you get as the treasurer, as an elected official. So this is over and above, just basically like a bonus, I guess, kind of, sort of?
I wouldn't call it that, but it seems like you'd like to call it.
Well, and I-
You know, potato, potato.
I know.
if
I mean, there's
it-
no other department head.
It
well,
feels
in-
like that,
well,
you know,
in
but
Ellis County and/or any other county that basically sometime in December gets a bonus, so I call it a bonus, or gets paid an extra $10,000 for a stipend. I just wondered how that worked, because I know it's that way across the whole state.
we calculate it per transaction. So if there's 150,000 transactions, I get a percentage of each of those transactions for managing the staff to collect for the state.
So like out of that, is that something you can share with employees or not?
No, that's just for the treasurer.
That is strictly for you only, so you couldn't give, I'm just using round numbers.
Well, I mean,
you
I
couldn't-
could write them a personal check.
Oh, okay. But you couldn't, where you got 10,600, you couldn't give, let's just say
No.
Casey 1,000, Susanna 1,000, everybody in your office $1,000. No, don't work that way. Okay. I didn't know. Okay. That's all the questions I had, gentlemen.
Okay.
Well, I think I know your decision, and that's okay. Like I said, I think it's an important thing to communicate really openly with each other where we stand, and know that I respect whatever decision you make. Just because I feel like the answer is no, doesn't mean I'm not going to share with you my business decisions and my suggestions. And, you know, I'll always be doing that and be willing to hear you out
And
as
and
well.
Lisa,
so.
I do agree with Commissioner Ross with that. I like the idea of a merit-based system. I'm not sure how we get to it from here, because
time.
we have a whole bunch of employees. There is a lot of good employees in this county, what have all of the qualities of your two employees. And I just don't know how we get to it from here and still keep COLA intact and everything with all the other employees. So it's a hard bridge to cross.
I mean, the merit-based
I
would be
agree.
great if we could figure out
We can figure it out.
how to make that work.
Well, thank you for your time. I didn't think that
Thank
we'd
you.
be having this long of a meeting, so I'll cut it short and, you know, talk to me if you have any further questions.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, Donna. The 2020 department inventory.
Commissioners, I think you've already looked at that. You know, you had all the departments except one turn in their inventory. So this completes Ellis County's inventory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason.
Darren, if you need to leave, you can. If you
Good
need to
evening,
go,
Commissioners.
you can.
Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services. I appreciate you guys throwing me on the agenda. I just kind of wanted to give everybody a quick update on, well, as much of an update as what we can on the coronavirus. It's we're still new into this process. You know, we're really, it kind of depends on which way you look, but 7 to 12 days into this. So as of right now, I want to start and finish with the same statement. There are no confirmed cases in Kansas, and there are no cases under investigation or anything to worry about here in Ellis County. We have partnered with the health services really throughout the community, including Fort Hays State University, HMC, also with the KDHE, and we've reached out to a few schools just to see if there's anything that we can do to help out. Besides that, like I said, there is nothing under investigation currently in Ellis County, and there are no confirmed cases in the state of Kansas or Ellis County. So,
Okay.
Get updates like daily or not?
yeah, it's hour by hour. CDC's pretty good at getting staying up on their stuff. They send out basically kind of progress reports. Now, worldwide, it has been escalated to a worldwide emergency. Is where the WHO has actually said it now. But as far as within the U.S., there are 6 confirmed cases. The evolving issue that they're concerned with right now is one of those cases is actually a person-to-person transmission, which early on they weren't sure was possible. So they have confirmed that it was a person-to-person transmission from actually spouse, I believe, of the original patient. So.
I know previously when we had to work with the Ebola outbreak that was across the world, you know, one of the issues Ellis County always has to be concerned with is our international students through the college, and I know KDHE keeps a close lookout on those college students, both here and everywhere there's a university.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I will say Fort Hays State has they do a phenomenal job down there with their own health. They've got their own health services kind of department down there, and they really have done a great job of partnering with the community. And we have a really great network of medical providers here, and really a group of people that are really interested in protecting and serving the community.
okay, thank
Any
you.
further questions? I'll leave you alone. All right. Again,
Thank you.
no confirmed cases in Kansas, and
Yeah.
none in Ellis County.
And they haven't got any closer to a cure yet either, huh?
No, it's flu-like symptoms really. So it's basically just supportive care, like they would do for the flu, and kind of a public service announcement is treat this as it is like the regular flu, and that standard precautions: washing your hands, avoiding contact with people that might have it. And really, if the big concern is if you have traveled to China now, they've kind of opened it up to the entire country. But if you've traveled to China and returned in the last 14 days and you have any respiratory symptoms and a fever is where they're saying you should not freak out, but you should seek medical treatment, see your doctor, and your doctor will coordinate with us and with the KDHE to kind of move forward from there. So, but really, yeah, it's very similar to the flu.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks for your report.
Okay, I think Darren is still occupied somewhere.
We can probably bypass that, huh?
Okay, how about the county administrator hiring process?
Probably have to bypass that too.
Okay. Oh, here comes Darren.
I will say on the, okay, yeah, he's back, okay. Sorry.
You know, if you need to go home, we can table most of this till next week.
Not the county administrator.
Which one you want to talk about, huh?
Okay, Darren, the Northwest Business Corridor project?
Yes, so we got the, excuse me, we got the engineering services contract for the Northwest Business Corridor out of Buck Driggs Design Group. The contract is totaling just over $414,000. This is basically to include what's considered as Phase 2, which is basically where Celebration Community Church, just on the west side of that, all the way up to 30th and then curved around over to Feedlot, back over to 183. They're calling Phase 1 the project basically from I-70 up to that area and then over towards the Dunans area, which is what your commission approved annexing into the city, and they're going through their CID and TIF process right now. So with that, the $414,000 PO to approve that engineering, the contract with Buck Driggs. But then we've also had individual discussions over the months about the excess sales tax that we have from the projects from the 2013 to 2015 when we built the different buildings and remodeled the LEC and the courthouse. There's roughly, at this point, with the projects that we have remaining, roughly 200 and, I'll pull this up so we have the exact amount. There's roughly $284,668 left. That is the city of Hayes' share. So with that, I drafted a letter from your commission chair, if the commission would approve it, to send it over to the city asking that they release those funds and let us keep those so we can transfer those into the Fund 78 for the special highways and roads and use that to help offset the engineering services for this contract, which would leave roughly about $130,000 that we would use out of that fund. That's budgeted out of that fund for the remaining of the contract.
Sure. I know I reviewed the letter. I thought it was done in very good taste.
Yeah.
It was an appropriate request.
I've had a little bit of discussion with a couple of the city officials, and they seem like they're open to the idea. I think they understand they're a big beneficiary of that project, and luckily, because they haven't budgeted to receive the sales tax money, I believe they're open to the discussion of helping us out on this, and
Sure.
I think the letter looks good, and hopefully they are receptive of it.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good. The letter should be in your packet for signature.
Yeah. Has a bit, do I need to sign it yet?
Yeah,
No.
we have it
Or
here.
we have it there? Yeah, I signed it. Okay. Okay, we'll wait for you.
You want to do your county commission reports?
Yes, we can do county commissioner reports. Dustin, do you have a report tonight?
Just a couple things. I did go to local government day and was able to see the new KAC offices and meet with staff. Had some interesting discussion about the hiring of a new administrator and what kind of resources they could have available for us. Heard some good, it's always a good day to go to some really good panels that talk about legislation going through, and they do a good job of talking about the things that could affect counties. So I attended that, and it seemed to be a worthwhile process. The other thing I did was attended the Kansas Republican Party convention this last weekend. from that convention, I was able to sit at a table at the Kansans for Life dinner, and we had a lot of discussion about the Value Them Both amendment that is now through the Senate and going to the House this week. It's an amendment to the Kansas Constitution. I'm asking my senator and my representative to be supportive of it. It was something that is near and dear to us. I believe our legislators should be the ones legislating abortion, not have open-ended a right to abortion in the Kansas Constitution. So those are the only things I have for you this week, but I'm pretty excited about the Super Bowl champions from yesterday. So.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Commissioner Hazelhorst.
I also attended Local Government Day, and then the next day we had our KAC board meeting, so I got to attend my first one. Eye-opening experience. I was overwhelmed with what the KAC does within the state of Kansas, and all the board members were there. Also, well, not all. I guess we was missing 2 out of the 16, so we had a great turnout. Met a lot of new people that I've basically seen at the KAC conventions in the past, and good thing is it didn't cost Ellis County any money for me to go. They paid me to come, so it was great. But no, very eye-opening. I will also show, I guess Darren is back. Their director called me Friday. He called, and KAC right now doesn't have the resources to help us with hiring an administrator because we got Dory is retiring. We have another person that is also leaving, and they're in the process of having to hire 2 more people. The last time Dory did probably the majority of the whole entire process, and she shared that with me, and it was very lengthy, and they just at this time don't feel they have the staff to help us. But we do have another meeting February 21st in Topeka again, and it's been a great board to be on. If you guys ever have the opportunity, I encourage it, because I was enlightened how much they do. You know, in the past I always thought they attended KAC conventions, organized the convention, and little things like that, and attended whenever everything is going on in Topeka. They attend every day. The attorney does. He shows up every day and goes to each session and gives a report. But I was amazed at everything they do. So it's very interesting to be part of that. So, and then they also put me on another committee too. So I guess I'm sitting on another committee. But it's all good.
Okay, great. And I have no report, Commissioners.
Okay.
Darren, are you ready?
Maybe.
County Administrator hiring process.
I think Dean kind of summed up what I was going to discuss about the KAC, what Dean had passed along. He had also reached out to, or another firm has reached out to him for the commission to consider in the hiring process for a new administrator. I did print those out. I don't know, obviously the commission didn't have time to review those, but maybe
For next week.
print them off and you can review them and discuss it next week.
Sounds good.
Be fine.
Okay.
And then the only thing for the county administrator report is I have the annual agreement from the DSNWK. It's an annual thing that the commission approves of. Nothing has changed from last year to this year except for the decreased funding amount that that we're giving them as a subsidy. Our county councilor has read it and approved it, and I'll just need the commission's approval or signature for that this evening.
Okay, if you have it, I'll sign it.
Other than that, that's all I got.
Okay,
Thank you.
I guess we will adjourn at 6:39.